Welcome to another edition of Jazz Smack Postgame, where the Jazz traveled to Indianapolis and played the Indiana Pacers tonight. And they kept the game really competitive through three quarters, kind of fell apart in the fourth quarter. Let's talk about it.
Jazz Smack, your source for information and analysis about the Utah Jazz and NBA basketball. Jazz Smack is a community for passionate Utah Jazz NBA fans.
So the Jazz played much better tonight, and I think this is what we want for the final four games after tonight. We want something that's competitive, interesting to watch, but ultimately in the fourth quarter you end up losing the game. And that's what the Jazz did tonight. It was very competitive through three quarters. It was a close game. Guys tried. They played hard. Even though they didn't defend anybody, they still played hard for the most part, and it was a competitive game. And this helps the team with the young guys who are developing. I think this helps them to play in a competitive environment where you're actually trying to run some stuff, and I think that's the better way to do it for these last four games. That last game against Houston, that was a disaster. Tonight, much better. So from that standpoint, I think it was a good night overall. And there were some standout performances. Specifically, Collin was really good tonight. This is one of the best games he's had in the last few games, and he was on full display tonight. The jump shot was going, and he shot a really high percentage, and it was great. It was great to see Collin get big numbers again, because that's one of the things we were hoping through the end of the year was to have Collin have some big games, because we want that value going into the offseason so that hopefully a trade partner can be found where it helps the Jazz and it also helps Collin. So I think those are the big takeaways from the night. The Jazz played well. They kind of played competitive. Collin had a good game, and those were the real bright spots. And again, they came away with the loss, which obviously the Jazz need to come away with these last five games, tonight included. They needed to come away with losses unless Washington wins another game. If Washington wins another game, then the Jazz can try and win another game. But if Washington doesn't win another game, the Jazz have to lose. That's all there is to it.
Yeah, unfortunately, that is what has to happen. Is the worst we can do then is the fifth pick, as we've talked about many times. That would be a huge disappointment if that's where we end up. But at least it's not the sixth or the seventh pick, right? So we need to stay where we are. It was really worrisome at the end of the third quarter when we were up in this game. But I think Hardy intentionally changed the lineups to lose this game. And that's really sad in the NBA, but that's what's good for the Jazz. So I'm glad he did that. And for three quarters, we were really competitive. And boy, Collin played loose tonight. I mean, he just looked like the old Collin in Cleveland. He played loose. I mean, he's hitting fall away 15-footers. I mean, he's taken big guys to the a rim, but in the past he would have shot all those. This time he kicked it out, which I give Hardy some credit in helping, Collin realize that. So he looked really good. But I think there was also some other good performances. I also think this is that the NBA is a long season. I think some of our rookies are showing their their weariness in playing. So, they're struggling. But I think it's more, this is what rookies do. They hit a wall, and I think we have at least one guy that's really hit a wall now.
Yeah, and Collin had it all going tonight. I mean, he was making mid-range shots, and that's my favorite shot for Collin, actually, is still, I love his mid-range game when he's taking guys off the dribble and he gets into that mid-range shot, and I think that's a really good shot for him. Unfortunately, the Jazz offense, it doesn't really cater to him doing that, but he had that really going tonight, and that's great. That's what I really love to see Collin do, because he's so adept at doing that. Rather than trying to get all the way to the rim, I like him to end up in the mid-range stuff and really get going, and he was in a flow tonight, which is awesome. But, yeah, I think that obviously 82 games is a ton of games for somebody coming from high school and then college, and then to all of a sudden jump to 82 games when in college you're playing about 30, In high school, you're playing fewer than that. So, I mean, that's a big adjustment. And like somebody like Isaiah Collier this is his second year out of high school. So he went from playing however many games high school is, 20 games. Yes, you play a lot of AAU games, that's for sure. But those AAU games, let's face it, those are nothing like playing an NBA game where you have all the travel and you have all that stuff and, the physicality and the size and the strength of the players. I mean, it's a completely different ball game. So you go from playing AAU game in high school basketball to then playing roughly 30 games at USC to playing 82 plus preseason in the NBA. I mean, that's just a monumental step up and your body's going to be very tired. And you can obviously see, I mean, it's the end of we're the last 4 games now. And I think the guys really do need a break. Those first and second year players definitely need a break at this point.
Yeah, and the guy I was actually thinking of specifically was Flip. And Flip looked just very tired to me. His 3-point shot he doesn't have his legs under him. And I just feel bad for him because, it's going to hurt his stats at the end of the year. But it's really, he's hit a wall. We get that. We've seen what he can do. So don't get down on the kid. It's just, I think he's hit a wall. And the physicality, it's huge. I mean, these guys are so much stronger than what he's played with before. And then, like, the final thing I was going to say is, and I'm sure you're going to get into this, like Keontae's talking smack with the bench of the Pacers, but they're talking smack back to him, right? That's stressful. Like, how would you like it? We go and play pickup basketball. Like, in general, no one's talking smack to you, right? And like in these games, everybody's talking smack to you. I mean, it's stressful. It wears you out, like after 82 games of doing this. So, I feel for these rookies. I mean, I'm very impressed with 2 of the 3 of them, but I feel for them now because they are really struggling. Let's face it. And it's not. We would all go through the same thing.
Yeah, Miles Turner, who is one of the best shot blockers in the NBA, he really got Filipowski tonight. I mean, if you look at that box score, Indiana blocked 17 shots. That is an absolutely crazy number. I mean, Walker's like at the top of the NBA in shot blocks per game at something like 2.5. And Indiana as a team blocked 17 shots. 17. I don't remember ever seeing such a number in my life. That is an insane number of shots. So, yes, Kyle had several blocked tonight of his shot attempts, of Miles Turner especially. I mean, Miles Turner ended up with 6 blocks, and at least 2 of those were on Kyle, and he really got him good. I mean, those shots weren't even close to getting around or over Miles Turner. Miles Turner got him clean, and he got him hard. And so it just happens. You got to adjust to how big and physical these guys are compared to how less, in that sense, the previous people you were playing against were. And so, it takes time. Yes, we're at the end of the season. Now they've played an entire NBA season, and you would think that they're getting adjusted to it. But like you said, like they're tired, and it just happens. And we're at the point of the season where I think everybody just needs a break. And so the final 4 games, then the Jazz are off. They can go on their off-season workouts, and I think they'll all be in a better place for that. And then we'll see them in Summer League. Obviously, many of these young guys on the Jazz right now, obviously Cody, Flip, and Collier will be at Summer League. Of the other ones, we don't know. But those 3 certainly should be at Summer League.
Yeah, and one thing I wanted to, like, what I'm most excited about, I want to see what Flip does against Miles Turner next year and the year after that. Because I think, as bullish as I am on Flip, I think he's going to, take him. But yeah, he got it tonight. He got it by a solid NBA basketball player that's a great shot blocker, and he got it. So, come back next year and let's see if you can give it to him. And if you can't give it to him, the year after that, give it to him. So I'm actually excited to see how Flip bounces back from that, because that's part of it. It's like, okay, you got beat tonight. Fine, right? kick butt during the summer. Let's see how you do against this guy next year, because I think eventually you're going to dominate him.
Yeah, from a mobility standpoint, there's no doubt that Kyle can take him out on the perimeter and get by him. But then again, if the Jazz are playing a normal lineup with a center rather than playing Kyle at center, hopefully typically there's not going to be a direct one-on-one matchup unless there's some sort of a switch take place, because like we've said many times, Kyle is not a center. Miles Turner is obviously, that's his position. Mm-hmm. He's not a power forward. He's an actual center. He doesn't have the perimeter mobility to play power forward effectively, in big stretchers, just in the same way that Walker can't guard power forwards on the perimeter. So if they do get matched up in the future, I think on the perimeter, Kyle's obviously going to be able to take advantage of that. And like you said, tonight's a learning night, so he knows how good Miles Turner can be at blocking shots. And so you either got to get into his body more, or you got to get more distance, more separation from him in, when you're around the paint trying to make those shots.
Yeah. So you want to go to the box score, and while you're going to it, let me just say like two things about Collin that you said, or one thing about Collin that you said, but I'm going to bring in another player. Like when you and I played, if you would have driven to the basket and you would have got blocked, would you have gone in again?
Not in that same way. I would have tried to do something a bit different.
Right. But here's the thing, and this is what I respect about Collin Sexton, and the other guy who did this was Malone. Actually, both of the Malones did that. They do not get bothered by people blocking their shots, and that's the right mentality. Like Collin will go in there and get blocked badly, but then he'll go in there the next time and get a layup. And that's why his shooting percentage is so good, is that he gets a ton of layups. It doesn't bother him. And that's like, honestly, that's a special skill. Because if somebody blocks you, it's embarrassing. Like you try, like, okay, let me not do that again. That kid just like pounds it back in there, and the next time they don't block it. So that's actually one of the things I respect about him. I don't disagree with you that he's got a great, mid-range game, and Hardy should let him use it more. But I actually really respect the fact that he'll go in there and get blocked badly and then go right back at it. And Karl Malone was that way too. Like Karl Malone would go up blocked, and then go up and get the basket and a foul. And that takes a special player to put aside your ego and do it, because honestly, at the end of the day, it's actually better that you just keep going back up, and because eventually you get fouled or get the basket.
So here's the box score from tonight. And as we said, the real standout tonight was Collin with the 8 for 15 from the field, 2 for 5 on 3, 9 for 10 from the free throw line, 3 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 steals, only 1 turnover, so 27 points. Yes, there's some big plus minuses there all throughout up and down the roster. So you just kind of discount that, because the Jazz obviously got blown out again in the end, and they allowed 140 points, which is again really, really huge number of points. But Collin was the standout player. The other guy I will point to that actually did play well tonight as well is Keontae. Overall had a good night tonight. And he went 6 for 14 from the field, 3 for 9 on 3, 8 rebounds, 5 assists, 1 turnover for 15 points. So again, that's a pretty good night for Keontae coming off the bench, playing like combo guard minutes. He almost shot 50%, 1 field goal make below 50%. Oh, it's he played a good game. And overall, the Jazz shot 52 3-pointers again. So they shot 104 field goal attempts, 52 3-pointers. So half their field goal attempts are threes, and they made 16 for 31%. So that's not a great number, and that certainly contributed them end up being blown out at the end of the fourth quarter. But like I said, that's not the point. The point is to try and play a competitive game to the fourth quarter, so the guys get some meaningful experience in a competitive environment. And I think that was accomplished, and then we lose the game. That's what I want to see at the last 4 games.
Yeah, I'll say this. I've been since Keontae's gone to the bench, his rebounds have gone up. I feel like this is not statistical. I haven't looked at statistical, but his rebounds have gone up. Means he's doing other things, and his assists have actually stayed relatively constant. Now he is getting a lot of minutes, so that's good to see. The challenge that Keontae's going to have next year is he's eventually going to have to put the ball in the hole, right? And the 3 for 9 from three, etc. He's going to have to put the ball in the hole, and that's what Keontae struggles with more than anything else. He's actually filling out the rest of the box score, which is great. We want to see that. I thought that dunk where he went down the lane and dunked over Obi Toppin was fantastic, right? I don't think he's an elite athlete, but that was like fantastic. He got the bench up. I was like, yeah, that's great, Keontae. Talking smack to the Indiana bench, not good, right? And getting a technical for like waving him off or whatever he was doing. But, he has shown some signs. And so I want to give him some props because we're hard on Keontae. And, honestly, give him credit for the rebounds. And likewise, give him for 10 rebounds. I mean, Bryce has really been stepping up. Not only his shooting, but he's been really stepping up. So I'm really happy for Bryce. I know you're probably not as bullish on him as I am, and I'm not saying he's a starter in the NBA, but I think he's shown he has a role in the NBA, and I'm really happy for Bryce.
Yeah, well, I like Bryce just because he seems like a genuinely awesome dude. I mean, really good guy, and I any success that he gets, I'm really happy to see. But another thing about that last game against Houston, the Jazz were out rebounded. I don't know if you looked at this. They were out rebounded for something like 30. They just got absolutely destroyed on the board. So tonight, Jazz come back and Bryce gets the 10 rebounds and the Jazz out rebound Indiana. Even though they got blown out, Indiana shot, really high percentage. Mm-hmm. At least they won the battle of the boards, and that means, and that shows like effort, obviously, and playing with some additional toughness, and Bryce actually leading the team in rebounding at the 2 guard spot at 6'5". That's awesome. I mean, absolutely fantastic. And 3 of those rebounds were on the offensive end, so 10 rebounds overall, 3 offensive, 7 defensive. I mean, that's great, and he still scored 9 points. He didn't have the best night shooting the ball, but still, considering how many threes he shoots, some of those percentages are going to come and go just because that's the nature of 3-point shooting. So 9 points, 10 rebounds for Bryce tonight, and he was the best in the plus and minus too. And so, yeah, I'm really happy for Bryce. Thought he played a good game.
Yeah, I am too, and I hope they can find a role for Bryce on the team. Like I brought up, and honestly, it's not really fair. I keep referring to him as George Niang, and the reality is, I think he could be better than George Niang. When I point out George Niang, what I'm saying is that I think Bryce has proven that he can be at least a George Niang in this league, which means that he has a role in this league because he's a fantastic 3-point shooter. But the rest of these things that he's putting on, that we were jumping on him at the beginning of the season, right? He'd come in. 0 assists. We had 0 assists tonight. No rebounds, etc. That's not the case anymore. And so I'm really happy for Bryce because I do think he has other skills other than shooting. And so I'm really happy for the guy.
Yeah. Well, so I think we've pretty much covered everything for tonight. But so the Jazz have 4 games remaining. And then the next thing after that is obviously the lottery in May. So we'll have like 3 weeks or so downtime before the next major event in the Jazz off season happens, which is obviously, that could be a defining moment for the franchise, just that lottery drawing. So we're all going to look forward to that. But I don't really have anything else to comment on and add for tonight's game. Anything from you?
The one thing I was going to say, I was thinking, and I don't know your view on, I haven't talked to you at all about this. So you may say I completely disagree, or you may say I'm feeling like the same thing. So, Martin has struggled. He's shown flashes. I think we're giving him a chance. I feel like he's struggled a little bit. The guy who I want the Jazz to work with? Sheepway. Because what you pointed out today, in the NBA, even in the modern NBA, the team that wins the rebounding battle often wins the game. There's a statistical significance with it. I really want them. Shibwe is a special player in a skill set. I would really like to see them if they can develop Shibwe to a broader set of skills than just the rebounding, because his rebounding is elite. So honestly, if I had a choice of keeping Martin or keeping Shibwe and see if I can develop more skills from Shibwe, I actually take the shot on Shibwe because that rebounding is just elite. And I would like to see if they can get more out of him. I mean, I am really bullish on Shibwe, and I don't know. Like he did, I looked. He took like no 3-point shots in G League, other than I think he heaved a few, and none in the NBA. So he may have zero shot of ever hitting those. But I would like to see if they could develop him, because there's no, like, do you know another guy in the NBA that rebounds the way Shibwe does?
No, he's yeah, in that aspect he's certainly unique right now. And there aren't very many. There used to be like designated rebounders that were like that was their skill. There was there's still the guy in the NBA, that guy that played in Cleveland, is if he's still in Cleveland, that guy was pretty much a designated rebounder. I can't even remember his name. Then there was like Jason Williams for he played well. It was New Jersey at the time. And Rodman was obviously there at a point in his career. That's pretty much what he was known for, rebounding. There really aren't guys specialists in that, in that specific type of skill set that you can really point to and say, well, this guy could be like this guy. So you're right. I don't know. I mean, my only thought with him is he's undersized at a center position. He's not a center, and he doesn't have elite athleticism either. So I think for offensive reasons, yes, he can get offensive putbacks, and then maybe you try and get him to make a little bit of a short set shot so that defenses just can't play off of him on offense from like 17 feet or something. And so that might be a possibility. I don't foresee him ever having a back to the basket game. I don't think he's going to be that guy. But then again, the Jazz, I don't foresee them, as long as Hardy's coach, I don't see them ever having a back to the basket offense either. So I think the most obvious thing for him to do is develop some sort of a face-up game from 17 or 18 feet.
Yeah. Well, that's exactly what I was thinking. But they're letting Walker shoot 3-pointers. So why not let this guy try to work with him on his shot, and where you can play him as a power forward, but but teams cannot just not guard him because he can't hit something. Now, I know what you're going to say is to say, like, look, he can't hit that now. I don't know if he can or can't. I suspect he can't because he's not shooting any of them. But my comment is, look, if you're working with some of these other players to teach them, to see if you can teach them to shoot, give it a shot with this guy. Because if you could teach him to shoot, I think he can play defense even undersized against players. I think he's tough enough and has enough drive that he will play good defense. I think he's a lot like Rodman in that sense, is that Rodman was a great defensive player. He didn't block any shots because he moved his feet. So I would really like to see them take a shot with this guy because, man, attitude and hustle and rebounding skills are unmatched, right? I mean, that's the guy you want on your team. And it could be a zero, right? I don't know if it's going to turn out. But if I'm going to bet take a shot with somebody that's kind of a long shot, I would rather take the shot with Shibwe and see what we can do with him.
Yeah, I would say that I would bet on him over Martin at this point. I haven't. Yeah. I think KJ plays hard and he plays decent defense, but he doesn't really do anything specifically really well. And he's not. He's like 6'6" too. So you're right. I mean, Oscar's at least has power forward size, legitimate power forward size, and KJ doesn't. And
KJ doesn't rebound.
Yeah. No, he
doesn't rebound. He can't hit a 3-point shot.
Yeah.
He doesn't have one-on-one moves. What he has is unbelievable hops.
Yeah.
Right? So, yeah, that's exactly my point, is that we know what KJ Martin is, and look, maybe he busts his butt over the summer and becomes a shooter. He possibly could, but Shibwe is big, and he's an elite rebounder, and he has the best attitude, even better than Collin Sexton, right? He has the best attitude. You want a guy like that on your team. So I'm just like, look, it's a long shot. I know that. I just like to give him a shot and see what they can do with the guy.
Yeah, I'm not opposed to that.
Not that you and I have any say in that whatsoever. That's our personal opinion.
Yeah.
So we'll see. But no, that's all I had.
All right. Well, we will call it a night tonight, and we will talk to everybody after the next Jazz game. So please, for those watching on YouTube, please like, share, and subscribe. And you can also see and follow us on X at Jazz Smack, and we will talk to everybody later.